ball out of your hands to muscle memory this stuff.
Now he's out of the pocket. They won't mind that run. That's a touchdown for Justin Fields to try and get Cincinnati on the board. Blocked. Grabbed by Arnett. Right up the middle. It's a touchdown for J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins. Can they catch him? They cannot. A Buckeye touchdown.
And you're going to see by Cincinnati's defense try to make this picture as cloudy as possible.
They bring a blitz. Fields off his back foot to the back of the end zone. Climbing the ladder, the freshman Garrett Wilson.
Playing hard for their head coach.
Now it's a run for Fields and a walk-in touchdown.
All went to the right place at the right time. He's been as advertised.
He's on a rollout here. And another easy pitch and catch Buckeye touchdown. That one to K.J. Hill.
Ohio State beats Cincinnati 42-0. Stephen Means and Doug Maurice.
Hello, everybody. I'm Austin Ward for Letterman Row. This is Rapid Reaction brought to you by Byers Auto. We're rewinding what happened just here on this football field on Saturday afternoon in the Horseshoe. 42-0 for the Buckeyes over Cincinnati.
Can I get an OHIO? Wow, what a great Saturday. Well, it was Sunday morning for me. I was up till 5 a.m. again watching this game. But I think the game pretty much turned out the way that we thought it was going to turn out, but even better. Because most of the pundits, Letterman Rowe, Doug Maurice, we all pretty much said, including me in my preview, that we would pretty much handle Cincinnati and that there wouldn't be a time in the whole game where we'd be like, oh my goodness, like we are going to lose this game. Unlike another team that we know. Oh, I can't stand them so much. I probably want to talk about that situation more than our game because our game was pretty straightforward. If you can remember, the score prediction that I had for this game was 35-14. And I think I've realized after 2 games now that that's not too bad. It was kind of in the ballpark, especially our score, the Ohio State score. I tend to be predicting 1 touchdown less than what we actually get. So on the next prediction, I'm going to take whatever I think we're going to score and I'm going to add 7 points to it because I said last time it was going to be 45-10 and I was wrong about that. We were actually above that. Well, we were 48. And this time I said 35 and we were at 42. So the fact that we got them at a shutout, I think was the most surprising part of the whole situation. I knew it wasn't going to be a nail biter. I knew we were going to pretty much have them in hand, but I thought they'd give us a little bit of a game, but they didn't really challenge us much at all. And you can hear in Luke Fickell's debrief after the game that he was pretty upset about that, and I think he was quite surprised. But he also acknowledged that maybe the reason is they just weren't ready for Ryan Day because why? People overreacted in the first game, which could have been seen as an excuse, which I tend to not be a person who likes to give excuses. So I tend to be the person who's more too critical or overreacting. But even last game, I was like, well, we put in some second stringers and third, but that could be seen as an excuse. Like, oh, blah, 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 that's not true. But they basically only scored last game in the fourth quarter when we had our second and third strings in. So I think the defense, making a shutout this game kind of gives that more weight that we just didn't play. Now, granted, Cincinnati's offense is not as good as FAU, or that's what was suspected, so that could be kind of true as well. But the fact that to get a shutout, which we kind of didn't necessarily get a shutout because we had a blocked field goal, which would be 3 points, and then they basically scored in the last couple seconds of the game, but the guy fumbled on the 1 yard line. That would have been 7. That would have made 10. That would have made my freaking prediction 42-10, and I said 35-14. That would be even closer. So I'm getting pretty close on the Ohio State score, but I'm getting kind of far off on the other person's score. So we'll have to think about that when we go through the preview of Indiana for next week, which always tends to give us problems. But it was a great day. I mean, what can you say? I mean, if you're really bitching about something about this game, it's because you are just wanting to find something to bitch about, because in all phases of the game, I think we were pretty strong. And I'm just waiting, by the way, for DeMario McCall to run one back, because he's getting so close every time. And knock on wood, he hasn't fumbled the ball yet, or hasn't really shown that he's fumbling the ball a lot. So that's good, at least on kick returns. And Justin Fields went 20 for 25 for 224 yards at 9 yards per average. That's freaking amazing. And then finally we had J.K. Dobbins come back and be J.K. Dobbins, and he got 174 yards? 147. I'm dyslexic all of a sudden. He had 147, which was like an 8.3 average per carry. That's the J.K. Dobbins that we had in the first year. And so hopefully he can continue to do that, and he can push forward, and the offensive line keeps gelling. The defensive line was getting in there, getting sacks, getting pressure. Other than Damon Arnett, who I've always could not stand, I think he's good on. He reminds me of Bradley Roby when we had him, if you all remember him. And Roby somehow became the freaking best in the freaking NFL for a while there, and I was like, how is that possible? I think part of it was because his senior year, he just didn't try, because he knew he was a first-round draft pick. So he just didn't try that much. But he also just in coverage would get his ass kicked all the time. But Bradley Roby was great on run defense. He would hit people hard, and he would tackle them pretty well. I feel like Arnett is very similar to that. If that ball's up in the air and Arnett's on the coverage, he's getting crushed. And he got crushed for like a 50-yard pass in this game. But he does, on the run defense, he does pretty good at tackling and taking people on. So, I don't know. I think he's worse than even Kendall Sheffield, Kendall Sheffield is one of the fastest guys that went to the draft. I thought, I was actually happy that he left, because he just kept getting burnt. And my family kind of said this to me in the Voxer chat, and I agree with them, that he wasn't getting burnt in the sense that he was always in position, but he always had his head away from the ball, and they would always catch it. So he was just, when I say burnt, it was like he was always giving up plays. He gave up plays against Michigan in the freaking Michigan game last year. He just gave up plays every freaking game when they would pass his way. And he was there. I mean, I have to give him that. He was there, and it wasn't like his guys were wide open like they are with Arnett. But he always got caught on. Because his head was never turned around, and he just got caught on. So, but he's supposedly doing pretty, at least he got chosen for a team, while a bunch of other Ohio State guys got cut for the season this year. So overall, I mean, I don't know what you can complain about. There's not much for me to say. I think I'm pretty happy, and this actually makes me feel more confident going into the Indiana game, who we always seem to struggle with. So it makes our defense much better, and it makes me more confident against Indiana, who tends to not have a very good defense, and we usually score good points on them. They tend to score a lot of points on us because our defense doesn't know how to handle their offense. So hopefully, with this defense being better so far, this might be our first test, because they're going to pass a lot. If they pass a lot, I think we are stout against the run, but our passing, I don't know if our pass defense in Indiana, and that's why they're usually pretty good against us, because they pass and they do these like dink and dunks, and they do these cross patterns that for some reason we leave guys wide open. So it'll be interesting to see that next week. But for now, I don't know what you can complain about. It turned out to be like even one of the better Saturdays, because the team up north, the fucking shit again idiots, almost freaking lost. And they should have lost if it wasn't for Army just literally handing them the game a couple of times. They were about to go up 21-7 in the red zone, and they freaking intercepted the ball because they never throw the ball. I think someone said, like, out of the whole game, they had 5 or 4 passing attempts, and half of those were turnovers. I mean, come on. Why did they do that? Oh. And then in overtime, all they have to do is just, like, fall down and then take the freaking field goal to tie it to make it go into a third overtime. And what do? They fumble the damn ball and give it to the freaking douchebags. So Michigan should have freaking lost that game. They should be 1-1 right now, and they should be farther down the polls than they are. And everyone keeps giving them this, like, oh, but they're hurt, oh, but they're that Ohio State would never get that same kind of critique. And they just think that Michigan's going to do something when they haven't done anything for almost 2 decades. So, yeah, it was almost turning into the most awesome Saturday ever, but they ended up pulling it out, which actually depressed the shit out of me. So, nothing much else I can say except that we moved to number 6 in the poll, and somehow LSU decided to go ahead of us because they beat Texas by a touchdown. I don't really care because I don't really care about the poll in the first couple weeks of the season anyway. But what can you do? Why did they pass us when we went 42-0? Oh, because they played Texas, who's ranked, and Cincinnati's not. That's your only reason for jumping them up in front of us. But anyway, I think it's just going again for the narrative that, hey, the SEC needs to have 2 teams because they're trying to blow them and get the SEC back in there for 2 teams, which is such bullshit. The only conference that sucks is the ACC, and the Big 12 is not that great either. But other than that, don't let the SEC have 2 teams in. Okay, now I'm just rambling. So anyway, as always, I want you to like and subscribe and stick around for more Ohio State. Next is the preview for Indiana. Peace out.